Hey everyone, for TRICHOMES.com, I'm Ashley Manning, and this is Careers in Cannabis. On this show, we sit down with staffing agencies, cannabis companies, and other industry professionals to discuss employment opportunities in the burgeoning cannabis industry. Let's face it, the cannabis industry has a ton of career opportunities, but also has a high turnover. And no, I'm not talking about an infused pastry. I'm talking about the frequent change of staff. There's several factors for this, and it is the reason I reached out to a professional staffing firm that specializes in strategic solutions exclusive to the cannabis industry. On this episode, we talk with Valerie Crisp, the Director of Strategic Accounts at High Bluff Group. High Bluff Group helps cannabis businesses find, vet, retain, and develop the industry's top talent. Hey Valerie, welcome back to the show.
Hi Ashley, thanks for having me.
It's great to see you again. Well, last time I believe it was just audio, so welcome to the video cast realm of Careers in Cannabis.
Yes, this is exciting. I love to see the progress.
Thank you. Well, let's get right into it. I don't want to keep you too long. I know there's a high staffing need in the world of cannabis, so I want to let you get back to your job. So let's start with talking a little bit about High Bluff Group. Who are you guys, and where are you located?
Sure. So High Bluff Group is a specialized recruiting firm. We cater specifically to the cannabis industry. We're headquartered in downtown San Diego, but I'm in my home office currently in Los Angeles, and we staff nationwide anywhere there's legal cannabis. We offer two different types of staffing currently. We do direct hire, which is when you hire an employee directly onto your payroll. And we also do RPO, which is recruitment process outsourcing. That's for more lower level employees when you're hiring in high volume and you need to bring on an outsourced recruitment partner. But our background comes from traditional staffing. So we've all been doing this for over a decade or so.
Oh, wow. Are you guys only staffing cannabis or other industries as well?
Our main focus is cannabis. We have staffed lower level RPO in other industries, but our focus, as far as new clients that we're working with and, overall is just a cannabis focus.
Okay. I know we're seeing a big transition of people from other industries, obviously, because cannabis industry didn't exist prior. So people are coming from other industries. So it almost makes sense to be a staffing firm that has some candidates that don't have cannabis experience and they're trying to find other jobs. And well, there's a great opportunity in cannabis for them as well. So, one of my reasons for reaching out to you specifically is I've noticed in the 5 years that I've been in the industry that there's a high turnover rate, and I have my own theories on it, but I would love to hear maybe your perspective on why there's such a high turnover.
Sure. And you're right in that. I mean, even the best companies tend to have a higher turnover rate than what you would see in traditional industries. And I think there's really, a few different reasons that that's happening. On the internal side, I would say it's, when you see companies that are growing too quickly, a lot of times that can happen if they don't have internal processes set up to ensure, longevity of the people they're hiring. It all starts from the first interview and the first impression that you're giving the candidate of the company. You need to make sure that they share the same vision, mission, and beliefs, values that the company is prioritizing, to make sure they're on the same page and, they really believe in the same things as the company does overall. So that's really important. And that starts, as soon as the first interview and with the onboarding process, to really integrate that employee into the company. A lot of times as well, you'll find companies that are getting investments and they, have the finances there to start hiring, and they really keep hiring more employees without really vetting out what exactly the need is for the added headcount. So if you're moving too quickly and you think, oh, we need somebody, to do social media, we also need content, and you're hiring all these people, then you end up in a situation where maybe you didn't really need them once you kind of rethink the budgeting. So I think it's really important to, outline all of that prior to starting the recruiting process, what the actual need is for the position, who's doing the role currently, to really define that before you bring somebody else on. On the other side, as far as like external factors, there's, I can give an example of, I guess we're calling it Vape Gate, the vape crisis back in 2019, where a lot of investors that were funding, the added headcount for a lot of companies pulled out. So with the loss of investment dollars, there was a lot of layoffs. And, it's not always something that you can predict, but it's just kind of the growing pains that come along with a startup company and a startup industry. I don't know that there's necessarily one way to fix it, but we can control the internal factors. The external factors will still be there.
I agree. One, finding the right staffing firm that meets everything that you stated about culture and making sure that they understand both facets of the applicant as well as the company is extremely important. And that's part of my theory on the high turnover is just not the right matching. But I think that's just take cannabis out of it. It's any startup industry, you're building an industry. So everybody's figuring things out and hodgepodging everything together, whether it be you're wearing 10 hats or you're wearing one. It's hard to get to wearing one hat until you've built those processes in place. And that's an uncomfortable territory for people who have never worked in a startup environment, let alone a startup industry overall. So thanks for sharing your insights regarding that high turnover. I don't mean to start, the interview off on a negative, but it's something that's that I notice and a trend as well. But having your insights on it really helps. So let's flip it into a positive realm,
Yes.
and let's talk about the opportunities though, because there is that high turnover though, that means there's opportunities for people, and let me back up. Because there's that high turnover, I feel that there's opportunities for other people with more experience to come into this industry as well to help that hodgepodging together and help define the process within a company, no matter what they're doing, whether they're plant touching or an ancillary company. So let's talk about some of the current open positions that High Bluff Group has and what you're seeking.
Sure. Yeah, I think we're in an interesting spot right now because obviously 2020 and COVID had a huge impact on companies and their headcount. A lot of layoffs happened, another external factor that really impacted us. But now, with everything opening up again, companies are starting to hire more and more. It's been happening since the beginning of the year. So there's definitely a lot of open positions right now and a lot of hiring happening, across the industry and in all states. Right now, one of the openings we have is for a field sales rep. And this is for a vape brand that's been around since 2019. They're rapidly growing their sales team in California. They're actually an MSO operating in multiple states. And right now they're looking for a cannabis sales rep located in Northern California to help them with that Northern California expansion. Another position we have is Director of Retail Growth. This is actually a new position for an MSO, multi-state operator, vertically integrated cannabis company headquartered in Los Angeles. And they're looking for someone to come on and build a system to help them track their overall sales, as well as, kind of run the sales team in California and work with dispensaries to make sure they're hitting sales goals and to make sure that the dispensaries have the merchandise that they need. So that's an opportunity that can be based in NorCal or SoCal. That's a remote position for a Los Angeles-based company.
You said remote as retail. So how does that work, being remote and working and helping retail grow?
Well,
that would be interesting.
They're not, they are remote in that they're not required to work out of the actual headquarters, but they'll be, if they need to work with dispensaries, they can go visit like the different clients. The position is with a brand. So they're supporting the brand and making sure the system's built out to track sales and inventory across dispensaries to make sure everyone has the merchandise they need. And so they're able to work remote unless they need to go to like a client visit, for example. That's a good question. That's why, although it's remote, they want them to be in California.
Gotcha. Can we talk a little bit about the qualifications for that position? Thinking of people who don't work in the cannabis industry, what would that look like? Just, I'll let you answer that. I'm sorry.
Sure. No, you're good. So both of these positions, they are actually requiring cannabis experience just due to the nature of the role. A lot of times it is difficult to transition into the industry in a sales capacity because they're looking for people that really understand the BCC regulations that come along with marketing and sales and the relationships with the dispensaries. So especially at a higher level, sometimes it's difficult to come in from outside. I do have another position though that's open that they're open to people from outside the industry. If you'd like me to go over the details of
Yeah,
that one.
please do.
The brand manager for a outdoor cultivator located in the Santa Barbara area, they're looking for somebody from a CPG, consumer packaged goods background, someone that has experience bringing brands to market and launching new product lines. So this is a great way for people to utilize their skills from outside the industry if they're looking to make a move into cannabis. CPG is a really transferable industry because, like CPG or health and beauty, it's consumer packaged goods that you're selling. So it's a really good way to make a transition in. But they're looking for someone that has experience developing brands, creating marketing campaigns, and driving that across the brand image across different digital channels.
Oh, wow. That
Yeah.
sounds like a position that you're going to get lots of applicants for. Are you anticipating that?
I hope so. Yeah. I mean, I love to review as many candidates as possible. So I'm sure I'm getting my clients the best fit for the role. So typically I've worked on a similar role in the past and we had, I think, over 400 applicants in a week. So it was definitely a really popular position.
Oh, wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, so competition wise, it's becoming a very competitive market to work and to have a career in cannabis now, which seems to be shifting from a few years ago.
Yeah, I think the stigma has really, shifted from where it used to be. Even when I entered the industry in 2018, I, had that moment where I was nervous. What happens from here if this doesn't work out and I have to apply for a job outside the industry? Is this, going to somehow blacklist me from working outside? And, now that I'm in, obviously, I never want to be outside of cannabis because it's amazing. But I think,
There
I was just going to say, I think the stigma is shifting, and people are more open to working in cannabis. Not as many people are as nervous about coming in, and I think a lot of people are feeling more comfortable sharing their passion for cannabis and why they want to get into the industry.
For sure. And I think being deemed essential has helped tremendously overall. And are you seeing people that are entering the industry actually leave, or people in the industry, looking for other cannabis careers?
I have. I mean, I've seen both. I think, it's definitely a difficult industry to be a part of. There's constant shifting requirements, and different things regarding compliance that are changing all the time. And it can be difficult to kind of roll with the punches, especially if you've worked for a company where you've seen them have to go through layoffs from either losing their investor or any of the other external factors that are impacting us. And it's a lot of ups and downs. So if you don't have that strong passion, or if have other factors that maybe you're looking for a more like stable type of career, it can be difficult to stay in sometimes when you've experienced those hardships. But overall, I see people that are not willing to give up on cannabis and are with it, ride or die till the end. And I think, if you really have that passion there, and you don't have other external factors in your life impacting needing to, look for something maybe more stable, I definitely see people that are wanting to stay in. But, sometimes people have to make that tough decision if they're not able to ride with the ups and downs. So it can be tough sometimes.
For sure. With any industry, and just a little bit more. There's a few more hurdles in cannabis.
Yeah, just a
um,
few.
can you share with me one more position that you have available?
Sure. We actually have several lower level positions, entry level for people looking to get their foot in the door. So I can go over those entry level roles, which I think are a great way if you're, looking for, if you don't maybe have another transferable skill. A lot of people in cannabis promote from within. So it's a great way to get your foot in the door, get experience under your belt, and make connections that can lead to those higher level positions. Right now, we do have a delivery driver role in Los Angeles, which is doing cannabis deliveries for a retail location in Los Angeles. We also have bud tender positions available in LA and Las Vegas. They're looking for people that are going to be working in the retail locations, customer facing, selling the cannabis products. We also have some harvest and cultivation techs for a vertically integrated company in Las Vegas. And so they're looking for people to work plant touching, doing trimming, packaging, things of that nature, as well as a dispensary security agent for Las Vegas as well. So that's going to be another retail position. But all
Oh,
of these positions are entry level. Experience is not necessarily required in cannabis. What you'd want to look for is a role that's similar to different positions you've had in the past. So if you're a bud tender applicant, for example, retail experience in another industry would be great. Delivery drivers, even if you're driving for Postmates or DoorDash, that's a great transition to get into the industry. And then the security role, they'd be looking for someone that's done security in another capacity. So these are all positions where you would be able to come in with no cannabis experience.
all very good positions to have. And, the growth, once you're in cannabis, the growth, like it's almost within 6 months, it seems that you see promotions happening
It's
within. So
true.
as you mentioned,
It's true. I've
and
talked
so
to several candidates that, one, for example, was a director of compliance, and she was promoted to that in under a year and had started as a bud tender. So you never know. It's a lot easier if you're in the door and you can be at the right place at the right time versus waiting
abs-
for, that perfect role. Sometimes it makes sense to come in an entry level capacity.
yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with the brand Cookies Burner.
Yeah,
He started out as a bud tender, and I now he's a global cannabis brand. So
it's pretty amazing.
it is. I suggest people getting in at the entry level versus going for the top level, managerial roles, because if they don't have cannabis experience, because they can really understand the process in supply chain. And once you can piece together supply chain in the cannabis industry, you can really start to piece the whole industry together, because you learn as you're figuring it out. And I
Hmm.
think that's what leads people to advancing their career in cannabis. And you never know where you're going to be within the next 6 months. And with that high turnover, it brings opportunity to those who have been working as well. So there is some
Hmm.
positivity to some of that turnover as well. um, you mentioned about promoting within. I know that, we're hearing a lot of mergers and acquisitions happening with MSOs across the country. Are they traditionally, when the larger companies are buying the smaller companies, do they traditionally keep the current staff that they have, or is it a we bought you and now we're gonna hire on other people when the current team,
Yeah.
disappears?
I mean, it's definitely, I know, a cause for concern when employees at the smaller companies are probably nervous about their jobs and what happens in those types of scenarios. And there has been quite a few mergers this year. It's been more than I've seen in any previous years. It's pretty amazing to see what's going on. But in terms of being afraid to apply at these smaller companies and fear of getting bought out, I wouldn't let fear dictate decisions that you make, because it's like any other industry. When there's a merger or acquisition, they're going to assess the employees they have at both companies and see who's the better fit for the role, and make decisions that way. So cannabis is not unique in that. I would say it's kind of the same as whatever happens in traditional companies and industries. So, if they have two people doing the same job, only one person they'll be able to keep. But besides that, I think they do assess at both companies who's going to be the best fit as the company merges and moves forward.
good insights. That means stay on your toes.
Yeah.
There's lots of, as an employee, you are hearing these things, a company's raising money and you don't really know what's going to happen next. So it's always good to just show up for work, do your best, do your job, and, whatever it is will be. So thanks for those insights.
And especially once you have that experience, even if it was at a smaller company, if that acquisition happens and you get laid off for some reason, everyone knows what's going on. We're a small enough industry where we know who's getting bought out, who's going through layoffs, and I think there's a lot more understanding there for that reason. It's always tough if you have a resume that appears like jumpy and you're making a lot of changes, but if you're applying for another cannabis position, at least you have that experience to go off of, and you'll have the understanding where people know what's going on. And I don't think it would count against somebody in those types of situations.
Right. And that's what staffing firms are for. Reach out to them and, explain that to the staffing firms, and they'll be able to help you find that next position that you're looking for. So, so I'd love to ask you, I ask all my guests, it's one of my favorite questions, is what is some big sister advice that you would give someone who's considering a career in cannabis? I think you might have already answered it, but I'd go ahead and let me know if you have some big sister advice.
I love that question. I think that's so cute, but also, I do have some good advice that I'd love to give, to anyone looking to join the industry. I think, first you have to really assess your passion and why you're joining the industry. I think everyone has a reason for joining. If you think it's because the industry is growing rapidly and there's a lot of room to make a lot of money, that's the wrong mentality to have, because this is definitely a long game and not a short game. And there's a lot of ups and downs that come with it. So if you're joining the industry for your passion for the plant and for, how your life has been impacted by cannabis, or, just because you're interested in helping an industry to grow the right way, I think those are all great reasons. And I think first assessing what your reason is for wanting to join is the first step. From there, I would say really do your due diligence on researching the companies and, what segment of the companies, what department you want to join. So you really have a good understanding of what their internal culture is prior to applying. There's so many different resources out there where you can do research on companies. There's like Glassdoor, I think Indeed. There's so many different places where employees go on and, do reviews on what it's like to work there. So really do your due diligence. And I would say also reach out to a recruiter that can help guide you in the right direction. Don't be afraid of, reaching out directly to recruiters, either internally at the company or externally at agencies. There's so many people that apply online, and, it's hard to put a face to a name until you have that personal connection. So I would say definitely reach out and, ask for help when it gets to that point.
Great big sister advice. Is LinkedIn, is it professional for people to reach out to recruiters on LinkedIn, or do recruiters encourage that?
I mean, that actually happens to me all the time. And I think it's a good way to help you stand out. I mean, I wouldn't recommend, if you're applying, to a company with an internal recruiter, to continue to follow up with them on a daily basis or anything like that. But I think one outreach, just mentioning that you applied to the position and why you're interested in their company, can definitely help and not hurt you. As far as external recruiters, working at agencies like myself, you can reach out and just let them know what types of positions you're looking for, share your resume. And I've had a lot of people do that and been able to help them get positions. So, it's definitely worth it to take the time to network and make those connections. I think it's, definitely professional. People do that all the time.
Yeah. LinkedIn has been phenomenal for being able to connect, especially during the pandemic and not having events. And
I know
I enjoy connecting on LinkedIn. So that's my big sister advice, is get on LinkedIn, build your profile, your network. And because if you haven't had a career in cannabis or even had a presence, I believe that staffing companies go to LinkedIn probably first to spy on, potential recruits.
Oh yeah. I mean, LinkedIn is huge right now. It's so important. I mean, if I have an applicant to any job, before I'm considering them, I'm looking for their LinkedIn profile. So I think it's almost a necessity now when you're looking for a new career or a new position.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Last question is how can you be reached or High Bluff Group's positions be seen?
Sure. So we can, or you can see our positions. They're all online at www.highbluffgroup.com. We also have different social channels, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, if you want to reach out that way. Or you can reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. My name's Valerie Crisp, or email me at valerie.crisp@highbluffgroup.com.
Oh, fantastic. I appreciate your time today, Valerie, and thanks to High Bluff Group for sharing you with us today for this brief video cast. And I look forward to having you back because this industry isn't going anywhere. It's just only ramping up and just beginning. So I anticipate several more opportunities and look forward to the next time we get to speak, Valerie.
Me too, Ashley. Thank you so much for inviting me on. I'd love to speak with you.
Hey, thanks for watching our channel. Click here to watch another episode of Careers in Cannabis and more great shows and interviews. To find more cannabis industry reporting, insider stories, and to stay up to date on the latest trends, make sure you subscribe and keep up to date with the TRICHOMES community app. Download it now and we'll see you there.